Okay. Let's get this over and done with then. So, full time, Newcastle 1, Spurs 3. We got our butts whooped. Pete joins me. I'm sure there'll be others joining us very, very soon. So let's get our words in and our excuses soon, like right now. Pete, what did you make of the game, bro?
Went exactly how I expected it to. You know what I mean? Look, isn't it what I said on the preview? Isn't it what I said on the preview? I knew we'd get a goal, and it was a fantastic goal. Fair play to Ritchie. But I knew that regardless of what form Tottenham were coming into this game, that they would score goals because that defence is not good enough. And that's what it was proved. I feel with 3 players I feel really sorry for in the Newcastle team, and the rest of them I don't feel sorry for at all.
I bet one of them St. Maximin, right?
Yeah, St. Maximin. He was fantastic. It's a shame now. He looks like he's injured. He looks like he pulled up his hamstring right at the end of the game, so that's his season done. He was fantastic, and he was the best player on the pitch. He was actually the best player on the pitch. That's how good he was. So I feel really sorry for him that he was on a losing team today because he didn't deserve to be. I thought John Joe Shelby was fantastic today. I thought he was exactly what we want from him in midfield. He was dynamic. He was box to box. He was trying to create things, getting into the box, trying to make something happen. Unfortunately, a lot of the players around him just weren't on his level at all today. And I felt he at times ran that midfield and was the better of the midfield players between him and between us and Tottenham. So I felt sorry for him. And then Martin Dubravka, because other than the 3 goals that he had to pick out the net, he had nothing. He made a couple of decent saves. He had literally nothing to do, right? But the inept, awful, shocking defending from the rest of the players has let him down massively. And again, I feel really sorry for him. The rest of the players, I don't feel sorry for because, ultimately, each player on the pitch did not do enough over the course of the 90 minutes to deserve any sort of praise or positive praise whatsoever.
No, you're right. Before Toby comes in, just want to shout out to Andrew, Gary, and the rest of the people listening in. You're right with those 3 people that you shouted out. I think the others, especially, in fact, there's 3 names that I want to say do the other way and say they were terrible. I think you probably know who they are. In fact, there's probably 4. Bentaleb for sure. Kraft is another one. Cher. Yeah. Oh, I probably could run through the whole roster. To be fair, everyone except for those 3 that you mentioned there. I'm going to bring Toby in right now, get a Tottenham point of view. How you doing, big man? You happy?
Yeah, I'm delighted, man. Absolutely delighted. We said it yesterday. I didn't expect 3 points, but I'll take it. I expected your defenders to be a lot better than that because you lot actually defended against us pretty well in the reverse fixture earlier on this season. But I mean, Fabian Schär for that first goal. If there's one thing you can't be giving us, it's gifts. You know Mourinho loves a gift. And Kraft as well for the second goal. Like you have to position yourself better. You can't just let a man like Harry Kane peel off you like that. Like it's food for him. There's only one man to mark in the box, and I was thinking like you have to mark him properly.
You got to be touch tight. He wasn't touch tight with Harry Kane in the box. You have to be touch tight. But for me, it's not all about Kraft. We played Kraft as a central defender today, as a set 3. He can't play in that position, and it proved in his performance. He was positioning wise all over the place, and obviously that's how Kane scored his goal. Kane didn't have to do anything for that goal. It's a great ball in, but if you had Jamal Lascelles there, that ball's getting cleared.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. That's the difference with not having your captain and your centre back, your first choice centre back in the team.
Yeah,
Gotham be in the house. Welcome, brother. How you doing? How you feeling after that?
You know what? My brother's a Tottenham fan, innit? So I had to watch with him. I just don't get some things. Like I'm confused at certain things. Like first, the goals were so just easy to give away. The first goal, I actually missed it. I saw the replay. Schär's trying to dribble out of defense. I'm tired of Schär, innit? Like, so whatever.
I think we're all Schär, to be fair.
Having said that, the ball gets to Son, right? Did you see Yedlin? Yedlin just decides to play musical statues and let him shoot. He doesn't close him down. He does the little back off thing like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Son only has a right foot at that moment. He's gonna go to his right and hit it. Simple mathematics. Okay, 1-0. We played well going forward. We looked like we could threat. We get the goal back. I'm ecstatic because one is a thunderbolt, right? And it's what we deserve. Next thing you know, as soon as Bergwijn came on here, I thought to myself, we have to pay attention because he's a young kid, youthful exuberant. He's going to try and express himself. He did what Lucas wasn't. Lucas gets the ball, he wants to run at man. Bergwijn got that ball. Both, I think it was Ritchie and whoever was there, both dropped off. They gave him like 4 yards and he just whips it into the box. As soon as I saw it, don't let him cross. He crosses it in. You can blame Kraft if you want. I think Kraft's good at right back. But like Pete just said, you can't play. I swear down, the shell's in there, it's gone. That ball's gone. Him and Harry Kane are gone. You see what I'm saying? Kane goes off. You got a world-class striker. This is what you want from Joelinton, Pete. This is what we're praying for from our striker.
Look, don't even fucking start with Joelinton. I swear down. Right? I will go in on him hard. Right, I tell you what, right? Seriously. Go back and watch that 20 minutes of Joelinton, right? Just go back and watch that 20 minutes of Joelinton. That is why I say that Dwight Gale has to start, right? Because when he comes off for Joelinton, the game's done. We have no attacking threat. The two centre-backs, Tottenham's 2 centre-backs, they were on the beach when Joelinton came on.
Maybe play him on the left then. My problem
No, because
my problem with Gale was
you're not going to get what Matt Ritchie did on the left-hand side.
But you know what,
his quality of crossing today, you ain't going to get that from Joelinton.
You know what, Pete? At one point though, we were trying to loft the ball to Gale, and he's too small, and Sanchez and them man were just bodying him. So that was frustrating because I was like, we need someone that can hold it.
See, I think
I get your point. Sorry, go on, Toby. I was
going to say, I think we defended against Dwight Gale relatively well today, in my opinion. I think apart from that one moment when he's beat Alderweireld to the ball, we all know Alderweireld's not the best in the air. But generally, for me today, I felt our 2 centre backs continued their form on Saturday and kept Dwight Gale relatively quiet. I think where you saw us having issues was St. Maximin literally just running through our midfield like it wasn't there. Where you saw our fullbacks giving away silly fouls like Ben Davies in and around the box as well. And when you saw Serge Aurier inexplicably booting his clearance straight into Matt Ritchie. So in terms of your in the box threat, I get your criticism with Joelinton, but I think with Dwight Gale, we handled him well today, in my opinion.
I think you did handle him well. But the bits that I liked about Dwight Gale is what you get from that type of striker, in that he's not going to be that target man that holds up the ball. In fact, he did hold up the ball a few times and did well. I think he won 3 or 4 free kicks for us quite high up the pitch in the first half. And that would be part of his role. But the other bit of Dwight Gale, the bit that you're not going to get from anyone else, is the way he stretches defenders. He makes those runs into the channel. He likes to make that run in behind, so he's always making you think all the time. Joelinton doesn't give you that. Andy Carroll doesn't give you that. That's why Shelvey and Gale work so well together, because Shelvey can use his range of passing to play in Dwight Gale. And he did that in the first half. Did he do anything that set the world alight in terms of being in front of goal? No. But what he does, he links the play to the midfield and he makes the defenders think going backwards. But when you've got Joelinton on the pitch, defenders ain't thinking about anything going behind them. They're on the beach. They know their game's done.
I heard that, Pete, but when you got man like Toby Alderweireld and Sanchez, them man there's towers compared to Dwight Gale. If I'm them two, I want Gale. If I'm them two, I don't want Joelinton because he'll be more physical with them and can hold up the ball to bring in Miggy and ASM. Because the point
you see Joelinton hold up the ball.
I don't know about Joelinton's hold up play. I don't know about his hold up play.
Joelinton's got a touch of a bounce.
Guys, I'm coming back in a bit. I'll be back in a bit. You lot continue.
I'm not saying his other play's great, but what I'm saying was Dwight Gale was getting eaten when they were fluffing that. He was just getting eaten. So I was just like, we need someone more physical there.
He was, but that's the point that I'm making, is that he was making the switches into the channels. So yes, physicality wise, he's getting dominated, and I get that, and at times he was. but actually he was making them run backwards.
I think
and
what
his
Pete's saying is spot on.
defenders don't want to run backwards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They
And
don't
I
want to
think
do
that's
that.
the one issue Spurs have had this whole season. This whole season, the one issue our defenders have had, the reason why we're playing so deep is because we hate that ball in behind.
Exactly.
And I think the one danger you lot had was that John Joe Shelby, I felt early on, was dictating the game pretty much. And when he kept finding Dwight Gale, I thought, oh no, we might have a long one today, because Alderweireld, I feel like, can hold that up for maybe 20, 30, 40 minutes. But if them long balls keep getting played in behind throughout the whole game, I thought you lot would have been a problem. But it just didn't. Second half, it just almost seemed to run out of steam after we scored the second goal.
I think it was after the water break. I'm thinking we're playing really well, Like, this has been a good little run for us.
Yeah.
Water break, we conceded within 2 minutes?
Yeah, I'm not lying to you. Them water breaks are killing games. I think it's not killing games, but it's definitely teams that have the momentum. It's a pause for them, and the teams that are kind of against the momentum, it gives them a chance to kind of get that respite and get their shit together. But honestly, you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
It's like basketball.
I totally agree as well. Like with the water break, it's like a tactical change. It's almost like it's American football now.
100%.
And tactical managers like Mourinho, he's just like.
I think we've benefited from that massively. And
100%.
The thing is, I'll be honest with you, I don't see it as a bad thing to the game. I get it sometimes if you're the team with momentum, but I think sometimes maybe because we have been the team against momentum, I'm kind of like, do you know what? I'm glad this water break's coming. So when you lot were kind of dominating possession, especially early on, that first water break, as soon as it came, I was like, do you know what? We needed that. Jose needs to get their heads right and tell them, listen, raise it to the same level we were playing last week. Because even though we had the same players out there, I felt like we didn't play with the same shape. We went with the 4-3-3 to kind of counteract you guys' formation. And I thought it just played right into your hands, where you lot were just dominating possession early on.
But to be fair, I feel like we played into your hands as well. That game was open. Like, it was back and forth. And Tottenham, 100%. That's what Mourinho wanted. He wants a counter. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, so, absolutely. It was a battle of the counters. Yeah,
once we lost the ball, because we're not used to dominating play. We're not used to knocking it about. I was like, right, we're knocking this ball about. You know what I mean? Like, we were in possession. Like, wow.
And I think that might have been a tactic from Jose to kind of let Newcastle have the ball, see if they have the quality to kind of open us up. That's where it started to worry me when John Joe Shelby started finding those passes, because that boy's got a right boot. I think that's very underrated, but it's the consistency I think he's always struggled with. But I think early on, that was kind of the plan, was to let you guys have the ball and we kind of hit you lot on the counter. And then it just kind of, as you said there, became a battle of the counter attacks, really and truly. It was an open game.
Yeah, so you know what? In my opinion, I think we was playing with like 9 men anyway, because Yedlin and Bensley were finding their inner Spurs, like the way they were.
No. You know what?
One of you lot touched on Yedlin yesterday as well.
Bruh,
there you go.
Bentley was all right. He didn't do anything wrong.
I don't know what game he's watching. He's not all right, bro.
Fumbi. You're fighting a losing battle.
Nah, he was getting ghosted past. There was one point Lo Celso just like went through him like he was a ghost. I thought it was
honestly, I was loving it. You lot heard what I was saying about him yesterday, and I was like, you're just proving me right, 100%. Like,
I've got to congratulate Harry Kane. I can't be a hater. 200 league goals, 201 now, should we say? He scored 2.
Career goals.
I'm not counting
at 26, man. That's an awesome record.
Yeah. No, fair play to him. For me, you can't hate against him, man. If we had a striker
that, the first goal, I said to my brother, that's what you call a fucking centre forward, mate.
100%,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That ball comes in. There's no guarantees, Look at the direction 100%. He puts that ball in.
One thing I will say though is that cross. What has to take credit as well, like because so many times I saw Aurier get in that exact same position, but that's the quality that I'm talking about that he's lacking. That Bergwijn, for me, I think since January we signed him for 25 million. I think in this modern day market, I think that's a steal. And that cross, I think you got to give that. He almost put it on a plate for him. He couldn't finish. I give him more credit for the second goal. The fact that you've got to be alert for that kind of second chance. And when Lamela did that kind of chop back, I thought, he's going to ruin it. He's going to ruin it. And then the second opportunity comes, you've got to be there. You've got to be hungry. And I think that kind of anticipation, I love that.
We don't deserve the for me. We don't deserve the Breckerman. We don't deserve him. No, we gave him. We let him concede 3 goals he didn't deserve.
Who's that? Dubravka?
Yeah.
He didn't deserve. He was, as I said before, you guys came on. There was 3 players that I felt sorry for today. in the Newcastle team. St. Maximin, because he was the best player on the pitch. Shelby, because I thought he was fantastic today. He was dynamic, box to box, getting up and down.
Yeah.
And then Dubravka, because the only thing he had to do really today was pick the ball out the net 3 times.
You know, one other guy
going
as
back
well.
to your point,
Matt Ritchie.
Ritchie did okay. He scored a good goal, but defensively there were issues there with him. But going back to your point about Kane, seeing him score those 2 goals, the thing that frustrates me more than anything is that from 1996 to 2005, we had that under Alan Shearer. We had exactly that. They're exactly the type of goals that Alan Shearer used to score, and it's so frustrating to see that happening in another team when we used to have that, and that's the thing that frustrates me more than anything.
That's why we need this takeover so we can sign Kane, because that's what I'm thinking.
Listen, we'll give you Dele Alli and Sissoko back. That's all you're getting.
We should have had Dele Alli in the first place. You stole him from us.
Listen, you can have him now.
You know what? What was a breath of fresh air today as well. Yeah, I think I'm not sure if Fuad's mentioned it already, but like, can you see how happy Kane is when he actually gets some good deliveries into the box? Like,
I was just saying, you
know how much relief that is to actually. Yo,
did you see though when Son had scored? Yeah, there was a chance for you to go 2-0. Someone's on the left. I know. I need to go.
We were texting each other. I said to him, "Yo, what's he doing?
What's he doing?" Yeah, we were like,
"There's no excuse. Nobody gets off. You should be giving that man."
Yeah, but he was like, "Nah, I'm not giving Son 2 goals today. Hell no."
Nah, he needed to get that. He needed to get over that 200 mark. He was like, "Nah, today's my day."
He needed that. But I'm happy he got it though, because I've been hearing too much disrespect on Harry Kane's name the past couple of weeks, months, even this season. Like, as Spurs fans, we all know that even before his injury, he's not been at his best this year. You can blame that on creativity or whatever, but bottom line is he himself hasn't hit his normal level. But what I take offense to is when people start belittling him and then forget what he's actually capable of. So I'm happy that he was back in the score sheet, and I'm happy he got a brace today, because I don't think he scored a brace for us since probably Olympiacos.
For a while. It's been a minute.
It's that saying that they say about form is temporary, class is permanent, and having Son and Kane. Son for me is one of the most. I know he's amazing, but still underrated. He's a top player in the Premiership, and the finish cutting in. Yedlin should have showed him out, but still, just the quality to finish and Kane's 2 goals. It's these game changers. It's the difference, to be honest, because if those 2 were on our side, I think it would have gone the other way. It's that kind of team, and you got finishers at the top end of the pitch that can do the business. So you saw your midfield and your defense, then you've got a good chance for next season getting top 4.
100%, and I think it's that quality. Go on, Pete.
I was going to say, Fuad, I said it to you and Toby yesterday. I said, if Kane needs a goal, there's only one team to be playing at the moment. Yeah. And I said that to you. I thought we'd lose 2-1.
No, you said it.
Winner. And when that second goal went in, I thought.
Even the Son one, I straight away thought of you lot, because you lot mentioned Yedlin, and I just thought he was so, like, when Son gets in that position, you know every time what he's going to do. It's almost like seeing Iron Robin cut inside and shoot. And the fact that Yedlin just kind of stood off him, got nutmegged in the end, I thought, do you know what? You deserve that egg on your face. But that quality that Marv, you were saying there is, for me, the key in this season. Like, I don't know if you don't remember, kind of before Corona kind of kicked in, our form was looking shaky again, back to kind of how it was before Jose came in, despite the little pickup. And that was because mainly Kane and Son were the ones out injured. You've got no firepower then. And that's the difference these 2 provide. You've got them, you've got a chance in the game. You don't have them, it's like, no, there's no hope. Like, the backups in them, what have we got? Lamella coming on, and we don't need Troy Parrott. I don't see it. But for me, that's the quality them 2 bring, and we need them big time. Like, to surround them with quality moving forward if we're going to get back into that top 4 race.
Sorry, what did you think of him? Aren't you a Spurs fan, right? Spurs fan, right? Yeah.
I am. Sorry about the delay. Technical issue. It's quite refreshing to actually see the Jose style of play actually come into fruition over the last couple of games. I'm not a proponent of pragmatic football, but I can accept it if it's well drilled. I don't think there's one way to play the beautiful game. Do you get what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that we were seeing our team sort of line up in a way that was efficient. So we switched between a 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3 over different periods of the game, and it basically nullified certain threats that were coming at us. Obviously, we still conceded a lot more chances than I would particularly like us to, but we always seemed like we were in some sort of control over the game, which is what you want from a Mourinho team. Yeah, that's
And that what you just touched on there, I think is key. It's like how narrative change even is mad, yeah. Because over now, what we've won 2 back-to-back games, Spurs, and what is it now? In the last 7 games since the restart, basically, we've won 4, drawn 2, lost 1. All of a sudden, it doesn't look so bad. Do you see what I'm saying? So for me, as much as like everybody sometimes get lost in the source of playing style. For me, at the end of the day, the one thing I always emphasize is a result-based business. And if we're getting the right results at the end of the day, I couldn't care if we were playing the worst football with 10% possession. Because I remember when Leicester won the Premier League with an average possession, what was it, 30% or something like that?
Shocking.
So it's
28% or something.
Yeah. So aside of perfect what you said there, like there's not one way to win a game. Like football, that's the beauty of it. There's so many different ways. And I think Jose, for me, the one thing he brings is a mentality and a results-based game. So it ain't going to be pretty, but if we have to suffer for a little while just to get a bit of silverware, I'm willing to suffer, boy.
Okay, I just want to say, I'm loving the Steve Bruce style of football, just enjoying it evolve with game after game. Really saw his imprint in this game, really saw his tactical movement. I saw his movement. I saw his vision. Really looking
for me.
Today, though, he actually like Newcastle were the aggressors today. Like I'm not used to playing Newcastle and them being the aggressors. We haven't seen that from Newcastle in a long time. So I actually wanted to give him a bit of credit for that. You know, I'm not gonna lie.
I think there's a way. There's a lot of discredit, man.
Yeah,
well, Pete,
for good reasons. For good reasons, he gets a lot of negative press. But I mean, for me, there's a contrast there because we had 3 years under Rafa Benitez where he played a very different style of football, but got his results. And he got results, and the football wasn't pretty. But did the fans care? No, because we were picking up wins and we were defensively very solid. And like you guys said, I think Si said it as well. If you're quite willing to accept a more negative style of football if it's producing results, and that's what Rafa Benitez is about. The only downside was that he didn't get the financial backing to be able to bring the players that he wanted in to be able to take us on to the next level. Whereas Bruce is very much a free-flowing manager in terms of he will just let his players express himself. And yes, it has brought the best out of Shelby because he wasn't in favour with Rafa Benitez and probably would have left in the summer. St. Maximin, yes, to an extent, but we would have conceded a lot less goals. And in the way the Premier League is now, in terms of how it's been this season, may have picked up more points. That's to be argued. I don't know. In my opinion, I think we'd have picked up more points in this Premier League season compared to others because of the way in which it's unfolded. That's just my opinion. But Bruce has got results, fair enough. As I've said, Clinton, Fumbi, many a times, he's got his results and we can respect that 100% because he has allowed us to be in a position to, one, stay in the Premier League, which it seems like since we've got on to 42, 43 points, the lads have switched off. And it was very much the case today. And two, he's allowed us to be in a position to be involved in a takeover that hopefully will be sorted and rubber stamped quite shortly. And if we were in a relegation battle or close to being relegated, we would not be in that position right now. So for that, we respect him. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't go any further than that because actually this is not a success for us. This is not a success. The level of our club and where we were at before Mike Ashley came to take over this club, we were regularly in the Champions League or regularly in Europe. We were regularly in at least the top 8, fighting up there every season. And not just in Europe, getting to the latter stages in Europe, whether it was the latter stage of the Champions League, we got into the knockout rounds. In Europe, we were getting to the quarterfinals, the semi-finals when we were in there. We've gone from that to now looking at 40, 42 points as a success and jumping up and down and celebrating and going mad because we're at that point. For me, that's not success. That's not good enough for me. A lot of people have said today, and they're looking on social media, oh, yeah, we gave it a go today. We gave it a go against Tottenham. No, that's not good enough for me, because a better Newcastle team would have put, in my opinion, and sorry for you Tottenham fans, a better Newcastle would have put that Tottenham team to the sword today. Mm-hmm. We would have put that. We would have scored 2 or 3 goals in that first half and would have saw the game out. And that for me is the biggest frustration about this current Newcastle team, is that we see mediocrity as a success, and that's not good enough. I'm not saying we demand to win the league or be in the Champions League or be in Europe, but we demand to be competitive in the top end of the league, because our club is big enough to be doing that.
And I hear that, and that's the thing. I think what you're saying is kind of more stems down from the board, but I feel like Bruce sometimes gets a lot of that kind of bashing for it, maybe because his not so pretty style. He's not really a fancy manager, and I get it, but he seems to be doing the job type of thing. And I feel like he's almost like one bad patch of form away from the Boo Boys coming back out almost. And the thing is I think one of the biggest difficulties in the Premier League you'll always struggle with is with a goal scorer. If you haven't got a goal scorer, you're not going to get far. And I think that's the one thing Newcastle have struggled with. We touched on yesterday as well, is like that number 9 position. If you haven't got someone scoring you 10 to 15 goals regularly in the Premier League, you're going to struggle seriously. And that, I think, considering you lot don't have that and where you are, I don't think it's actually that bad of a season. Like, because really and truly, everyone above is kind of mixing for the European spots, but no one's really secure. Spurs have been up and down. Arsenal have been up and down. Wolves have maybe been the only consistent ones in Sheffield. Yeah. But, I mean, United up and down. Chelsea have been kind of slipping in and out of them sort of Champions League spots. So, I mean, it's tricky. But, I mean, next season, I don't think you lot are kind of that far even off under Bruce. And I think Bruce, if he's bringing the results, stick with him, man.
I don't know.
I want Bruce out first.
Here's the thing. Do you know what it is? Is I think because you had Rafa Benitez before him and you loved him so much, it's kind of like whoever came in afterwards was doomed regardless. It's similar to Emery at Wenger, similar to Moisey at Ferguson. Whenever you come in after the big man who's successful there, it's always going to be difficult to replace him. So he's got his backs against the wall, man.
But Steve Bruce hasn't helped himself, though. You know, when he was manager of Sunderland, being manager of Sunderland was nothing in itself.
You know what? My bad. And then I forget that sometimes myself.
But then on top of that, whilst manager of Sunderland, he was shitting on Newcastle and talking negatively about us as well, saying he never wanted to manage Newcastle, even though he's a Geordie boy from Newcastle, saying he never wants to manage. You know, so he's talked a lot of rubbish, and as well as manager as well, he's talked up Mike Ashley far too often for our liking, and even just recently saying the fact that it's a myth that we've got an issue about the fact that we're stagnating as a club, which we are stagnating as a club, but he sees that as a myth. You know, he saying these things is only going to rub the fans up the wrong way, so he's not exactly helping the situation. So I get what you're saying, and from the outside looking in, it would seem like he's getting a raw deal, but with Newcastle fans following the press conferences, following what's being said, what's being seen on a regular basis, there's a lot of things that a lot of the press doesn't really, the national press don't really pick up on, that the local press do, and that rubs the fans up the wrong way. So all of those things in itself create that negative view of Steve Bruce, on top of the fact that he's succeeded Rafa and nobody wanted Rafa to leave, obviously.
Yeah. No, I hear it.
But I mean, going for you guys now for Tottenham. So you're in 7th place now. You've gone up to 7th. I know Sheffield United have got a tough game. They've got Leicester tomorrow. Where do you see yourselves now? Do you see yourselves thinking that you're nailed on for European, or is it still touch and go? Where do you see yourselves moving forward?
For me personally, I still think it's touch and go. If I went off the resources that both teams had, or all teams had on paper, then by all means I'd be backing us to get Europa League. But every time I put my faith in this team, they always find a way to let me down. So I want to be a bit cautious. But like you said, Sheffield United, who do they play? I thought they play Leicester. Is it Leicester?
Leicester. They've got Leicester tomorrow.
They got Leicester. Game. Yeah, Wolves still have to play. Wolves still have to go to Stamford Bridge as well. So
who do you have left?
We have Leicester at home, but we have Leicester at home and then Palace away. I think Palace, I think Leicester at home, if they are missing the players that they're meant to be missing, i.e., we know Pereira's injured, we know Maddison's injured,
Chilwell's out, yeah,
and Soyuncu suspended as well. If all those 4 players are still confirmed out for Sunday, then it will be a big disappointment if we don't take 3 points in that game, in my opinion.
You guys want that European sport because
that's my thing. That's my thing.
Yeah, Mourinho will go for it though.
See, right now,
Mourinho will go for it.
That's the thing. Mourinho wants it, and Toby's saying we need it. Me personally, I'm looking long term. I don't want it. In my opinion, it's an extra fixture. It's next season a cup that. Let's be honest. I've seen Arsenal struggle for the last 3 years unnecessarily and not gain anything out of it. No Champions League spot at the end of it. No. Like, looking at our squad, I don't think we can even win that, if I'm honest. Next season, we need to focus on rebuilding for me. Don't do that. Don't do that. We put this allure around Mourinho like he can work magic. Listen, I'm trying to be realistic, not optimistic. I'll be honest.
Kazakhstan on us.
I don't want to be
all sorts in there, man.
That Thursday to Sunday.
Listen, I love Jose, but he can't work miracles.
You know what it is? It's like you said, if you don't have the squad, like you can play 2 teams because you need to play 2 teams for that league. Because your league form suffers, and then when you start tailing off the league, you start basing everything on UEFA.
Absolutely. There you go.
Maybe you don't have the strikers to do it.
I was like, I don't want to make UEFA. With what team?
Well, the only thing for me right now, our season has ended. We've beaten Arsenal. Our form has improved. We've shown a bit of, you know what? Maybe there's hope for next season. Right now, these next 2 games, they don't affect my emotions. In fact, I'm low-key hoping for some draws because I don't want to lose. And that way, we low-key
so you want
out
Arsenal, you want Arsenal to win the FA Cup then, yeah?
Easy now.
We're definitely on the same page.
No one's
what do you think?
No. Yeah, I'm definitely on the same page as you on that one because for me, like we've been in the Europa League and we've been it's about 10 seasons without missing out on European football. And anytime we haven't been in the Champions League, it's been a slug of a season. We get towards like the business end of the season and we end up going out of 3 cups in 1 week. And I can't deal with that sort of stress. That's what I got no hair, mate. It's one of those things. Like I think with a manager like Mourinho, a lot of people will be of the mindset that if we're in the most competitions, it heightens the percentage of him potentially winning something. But let's be real, the winning of the Europa League lost its meaning when it shifted to gaining a Champions League spot at the end, because basically it's a means to an end. And for any team that is ambitious enough to be fighting on all fronts, league position is what you want to do to secure your Champions League spot. Going around the houses and just basically supplementing your season with a trophy that basically gives you the same end goal as what we should be doing in the league becomes meaningless, and it's just extra fixtures.
And if we're saying Jose is going to be like this cup specialist or whatever, I'd prefer him to put those energy towards the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. 100%. 2 cups, which I feel like under Pochettino, he kind of just dismissed and felt like they were small-time cups. And I'm like, do you know what? If we can get the domestic cups under us, I don't mind that. I'm happy to kind of go more for those than to chase the Europa League and have this extra fixture and worry about the depth of our squad. Nah, I don't want those stresses.
But the thing is, you lot say that we don't have the squad for it. I think we do have the squad for it in terms of numbers. We don't have the squad for it, maybe so much in terms of quality. And I get what you're saying, Si. Like, obviously, them putting that sort of Champions League spot is like, I get that. But ultimately, it is a Champions League spot. And for me personally, Europa League used to, when it was called the UEFA Cup, it used to be a credible trophy to win. Yeah, It used to be a credible trophy to win. And I think now, even now, Europa League, we can make a jokes and whatnot. But in the end of the day, it's silverware. We ain't won silverware. So I'll take, if we got any opportunity to be in multiple competitions, then let's do it. Because if we were in the Champions League, we'd be saying, okay, cool, realistic aim. Let's try and go for the knockouts, quarterfinals. And we'd say, okay, maybe we have the squad for that. So then why don't we put that same logic into the Europa League? I actually think...
Thursday. So the Thursday. Thursday.
Yeah, but we could. It's on a Thursday, but
Hey, trust me,
and you're going to Kazakhstan.
That Thursday to Sunday.
Bro,
The thing
is, it's not it. It's not it. If you're saying you want silverware, FA Cup and Carabao is the way to go in. If we have the squad depth for it, because I don't even believe that, in all honesty. As you said, I think we're even struggling to have the quality to qualify for it, let alone win it. Do you see what I'm saying? So my logic is, unless we have major additions next season, I want those major additions to not even worry about Europe. Just focus on the league. And that way we can even get a consistent 11 going that were like, do you know what? Under Pochettino, that's where we work best. When we had a consistent 11 week in, week out. Yeah, was it the 16, 17 season? I can't remember.
16, 17.
Yeah, you just had that solid 11. And I want to have that feel again next season almost. Not worrying about an extra fixture and thinking, do you know what? We've got to come back from Kazakhstan and now we're playing Burnley on a Sunday night.
Hey, I was about to say that. You don't want
Burnley's the new Stoke away.
I'm playing Burnley on Sunday. That's a long day.
Burnley away.
One of those games I've got to give. One of them.
Facts.
No, but I agree. I see what you're saying, because obviously you want to be in a tournament. But I believe if you don't qualify for Europa next season, you just have the Premier League to focus on. And that's a problem. That's good for you in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And the one thing we've seen over the last couple of seasons as well is that fourth spot, is always up for grabs up until the end of the season. Teams are always dropping points. Nobody ever seems to grab it, whether it was us last season, Chelsea and Leicester this season. So if we're going to be in almost Leicester's situation this year, where they don't have to worry about Europe, just focus on getting your league form right. Let's do that, man. I'm all in.
But Fuad, though, one major thing that you're forgetting to mention is who we have as our chairman. Yeah, we have a man who is money obsessed, and we have a man who preaches about self-sustainability. So we, as a club, we want all these additions. Yeah, all I'm saying is, as fans, we know that Europa League, if we make it to the knockout stages, we're guaranteed to get something between maybe like 20 to 30 million. Daniel Levy will want that money. And what I'm trying to say is that I think next season as well, Mourinho wants the Europa League. Those players want a trophy as well. I know we want them to focus on the FA Cup and Carabao Cup, but they definitely want it. They want to be playing in Europe. I know that for a fact.
I think you said it best. That I don't know if anybody rates the Europa League like that. I don't know if those players are looking forward to Thursday nights. There's no theme to walk out to and hold your badge. It's not like the Champions League. Nah, the Europa League one. I don't even know what the sound of it is. Honestly,
the trophy's actually quite nice. I say that.
Listen, you can say that, but for me, I don't know. And what you say in regards to kind of financially, I think for me, if we don't qualify, this will be the biggest indictment on the board, because this board, we've had that consistency of Europe for 10, 12 years or whatever it is. If you now do not put your hands in your pocket to fund us, to get us back into Europe, what does that say about you as a chairman? That is the biggest indictment on Levy.
You took a loan out though, didn't you?
That's your business. That loan better be for my playing squad, nothing else. It ain't to line your pocket. It ain't to. Listen, he's selling off our club to Amazon for documentaries. Where's that money?
No, I'm insulted.
I want to see that back invested.
I'm insulted that you men are complaining about chairmen when you see men like Pete and myself in the
You
know what? My bad.
You guys talking about Europe and all the rest of it. We've had one European adventure in 13 years, and we still got to the quarterfinals, man. We still got to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. But that's the thing, you know what I mean? It's you compare the chairmans. I'm sorry, I'd take Levy all day. I know he doesn't spend. He doesn't spend the big money to challenge the big boys. You want to be challenging the big boys, but for me, you've got Mike Ashley, who who sells off his assets and pockets half of that money and puts it into his Sports Direct business. For me, Levy trumps Mike Ashley every day.
I think that's more key for us this season more than ever, though.
Where's all that money going? They're always.
Have you seen Sports Direct in Whitechapel? It's pimping.
Hey, no, but I think that for us is more important than ever this season. Is like what you said is offloading the talents. For me, I think we've seen that this squad has kind of gone through its cycle under Pochettino. It's time for some of these players, if I'm honest, to go. As I said before, the Dele Allis, even Lucas Moura, who I feel like has maybe started to pick up his form a little, but whilst they still have value, before it's oh no, we haven't seen the best of Dele Alli for 4 or 5 years now. No, while we can maybe blag Newcastle into paying 40 million or Everton 50 million, let's do it now.
Oh
like,
no!
That's what I want to see.
He's too much of a problem.
I swear.
You can see it. You can see it now.
That's going to be a marquee signing when we
I can see it.
over.
I said it.
You know
I said it. When Newcastle get taken over, Dele Alli's going to be your marquee.
In the town centre every night.
The new Kieran Dyer. The new Kieran Dyer.
No, we can't have him, man.
Players like Ali and Moura, I hear what you're saying. They're probably one of the ones in our team where
Lamela.
They're not really offering us much now. And like they have probably the most value. Like we get quite a lot of money for them if we put them up for sale. But do you not think that we're at risk of doing too much too soon though? Because we know that Lamela has to go this summer. By hook or crook, he has to go this summer. Dyer has to go this summer.
No, Dyer's staying. That's the thing.
He has to go.
We're saying he has to go. Jose's saying he's fundamental.
Yeah.
So
he's played a lot on
and I'll be honest with you, even Lamela, as much as we want him to go,
before he sells Dyer.
100%. I think Dyer and Lamela, as much as we want them to go, I don't think they're going anywhere. Even Moura. I'm saying,
how's the squad going to improve then? Because they're still going to be weak. They're still going to be deficient in our team.
This is where I'm saying. You see, next season we judge Jose. If he goes into next season and says Moura, Lamela, Ali, and Dyer, these are my guys. Okay, Jose, that's on you now. That's all I'm saying. We just give him next season. That's on Jose then. But Jose must put the pressure on the board. And I'll be honest with you, one key thing, Harry Kane as well. If he's saying he wants to leave in the next summer or whatever, this is your time to put the pressure on the board and say, surround me with quality. Come and use your voice. Be one of the leaders.
Well, going back to Dele Alli, what do you think the drop? What do you think the drop has been with him? What's happened? Because at one point he was getting linked with Real Madrid for 100 million, and was on point, tearing up the big teams in the big games. And then all of a sudden, I've got an opinion of what it was that why his form's dropped. But from a Tottenham perspective, what have you seen that's made you think any particular reasons?
We've seen a lot of unrest in terms of tactics around morale around the team, and I think all of it has sort of created a bit of a shitstorm for quite a few players. I think Harry Kane has suffered from it because he's had guys behind him that are not really performing to their best, and Dele has basically just been shoehorned into different roles for basically the last 18 months. I feel like I mentioned on Touchline Hotspur, I feel like the diamond really, really messed up the equilibrium of the team. We had Dele basically floating in behind two strikers and not really having any space to run into, whereas you get Son basically turning into a centre forward and started to feel himself a little bit too much. So when you put all of those components together, you've got young players who have had like quite a high rise, who are now plateauing at like an acceptable level of performance, but the perception of it is basically a massive drop off. Instead of just accepting, okay, this might be the area where he consolidates a little bit of his skill set, we're now seeing a lot of people basically put a target on his back and say, you're just not good enough. When if we really look at it,
love it.
When we really look at it, like it's an acceptable level of performance.
Facts. And literally what you said there, I think it's kind of a twofold thing. I think positionally and tactically, he's been moved around, and a lot of managers have come in, kind of Poch and Jose. That kind of shadow striker role he kind of prospered under, kind of, we don't play with that anymore as well. So that has been a change for him. I also think one other factor is injuries. Like over the last 2.5 years, I don't think maybe there was like a period where we was getting 10 games in a row or 8 games in a row of seeing Dele Alli, because every time he'd have a hamstring, knee, ankle, whatever it was, and he just seemed to lose that rhythm all of a sudden. And then it's like when you see someone in and out of the side, you're kind of thinking, do you know what, his form's not all that. And then you see that over 2 seasons, a whole season, it's like, do you know what, we might not still have the same player. So for me, I think he's kind of been unlucky in some aspects, but then some of it has been his own doings, because there have been performances where I've seen him as well, and I've been like, he doesn't seem like he's really as hungry as he was when he first came on the team or when he first burst on the scene. So I don't know if he's maybe lost that hunger a little bit as well, but I definitely think there have been other external factors, and there has been kind of this target on his back that's like, oh, do you know what, Dele Alli, he's just not that good type of thing. It's very easy to say that, but yeah, there have been other factors for sure.
I think the antics that he went through, I think he got robbed in Dubai. He did the coronavirus thing, and you're like,
got
really,
robbed here as well.
Right. So you're thinking, how are you moving? I saw him with Ross Barkley. If you're hanging out with Ross Barkley, it's a long day. You are not serious.
You know what? For me, I feel like we read too much into his sort of off the field work. For me personally, maybe some of those robberies may have affected him mentally, but I think what we're seeing on the pitch for me has nothing to do with what he does off the pitch. I think what we're seeing on the pitch is like what Sai said. It's a consequence of him being shunted in multiple different positions. Like in our run up to the Champions League final, he was playing CM. He was playing for most of his games, and loads of people are like, "Oh, if Ali doesn't score, he's anonymous." This, that, and the other. But he's actually a decent passer. He's actually good at bringing others into play. He has these qualities, but because they're so used to seeing him on the back of on the score sheet or assisting or whatnot, and when he doesn't do that, and he's playing so deep, his qualities aren't suited in that role. And I think the injuries as well hadn't helped as well. He had a consistent run in the team, playing a consistent position under Pochettino. And then last season was the first time he actually had sustained injury spells out. He was out for like a good month and a half in the first bit of the season. And then he missed around 2 months of the season towards the back end as well. And then he's now had that reoccurring hamstring injury as well. So maybe he's not as intense on the ball as well. So I do hear what Fuad's saying as well. I think performances-wise as well, he's just not been himself in some games. We can't just put it down to injury and shutting position, because ultimately there's just been some games where he's been pony. But I think opposition fans are too critical on Ali. When you look at his numbers as well this season, I see players like Grealish, like Maddison, who are being talked in such a high regard, who are betting him. This guy's outperformed Maddison. Maddison's played more games. This guy's scored more goals, and I think he's got more assists in the league for someone who's so much better than him. Jack Grealish, who's the talk of the town, etc.
Maddison looks like Beckham, though.
Exactly. Jack Grealish, who's talk of the town, who can dribble his way through Hong Kong, for heaven's sake. And now all of a sudden, he's way better than Ali. Statistically, he's not even miles ahead of Ali. So I just think, like I said, people just need to put things into perspective and analyze him fairly.
That seems to be the modern media way these days, is that they tend to forget the players very, very quickly that have done the business over a consistent period of years, and then the new guy comes into town, and they're already comparing comparisons in stats to these guys and putting them on a pedestal. And I think that's been, talking about Jack Grealish, who was at one point very close to signing for Tottenham. I think that's been his issue, is that he's gone from being this superstar player to coming back into the restart and actually not playing very well at all, because he started to believe his own hype. And in my opinion, I think that's what happened with Dele Alli. I think Dele Alli had such a sudden rise into your team and being such a focal point to your performances. He then started to believe his own hype and believe that he was at that level, and then his work ethic and his output started to drop, because he thought he could kind of sit back and not have to put in that effort but still get the rewards, and it never came. The injuries and the other things did have an impact, but I thought it was an attitude, really. It was sort of an ego issue, that he started to believe that he was that guy when he was being linked with Real Madrid, and that he was being kind of dubbed the saviour of England, and he's going to be the future and all the rest of it. And he's not the only one. The media do this. Sky are the worst for it. And they build these players up so big that these guys think that they're these mega superstars, but they're also very quick to bring them back down, and bring them back down worse than they were before.
Hey, we're being held to ransom.
And there's only so many players that can handle that. There's only so many players that can handle that. You go back in history, the likes of Wayne Rooney, David Beckham, and there's only maybe a few others that have been built so high and dropped so low that have still come back and shown the business. And I hope Dele Alli does it, because I do rate him. I do think he's got ability, but it's whether it's whether Tottenham and Mourinho have got the patience for him to persist with him, because he's still a young player and he's still got his prime years left in football to play. It's an interesting.
He'll look good in black and white, man. I'm telling you. He'll look good in black and white.
I don't want him sold.
Hey, when we go to ransom, like Matty Longstaff, like I'm actually gonna cry over this. Matty Longstaff is doing contract issues. Like, why?
I can't believe that, you know.
Why?
I can't believe that.
I respect it.
How much did you offer? Like 30k a week?
We should have offered to the ground.
He got clout of one game and said, "You know what? I can secure the biggest bag. Let me go do it."
This is it. It's really weird.
Players. Usually that's African players. They come in, they score 3 goals. You see the blonde hair dude, the Gucci hampers. You know, he's got Madrid. Matty Longstaff, you know.
Yeah, it's so weird about Matty Longstaff, but because before he scored his first goal when we beat Man U, after we got hammered 5-0 at Leicester, earlier on in the season, around October time, I think it was, he was on the verge of signing a new contract. I think it was like £12,000 or £13,000 a week. And he was literally ready to put pen to paper. He scored that goal, and since he scored that goal, he put contract talks on hold. He then came back in the new year and said he wants 30 grand a week. Sean Longstaff, who's been in the first team longer than him, his older brother is on 25. So he was asking more of him, and he's performed in less games in a shorter period of time. So Newcastle, you know, you could argue,
I think that's the only issue, though.
I'm not sure about this. Udinese now have come in and said, right, we'll offer you 30 grand a week. So he's going, well, there's my 30 grand. Now, we know that Udinese are owned by Watford as well. And Watford are looking to
where it's going.
They're looking to bypass the compensation, which they'd have to pay quite a few million for, and get him on the cheap, on loan initially, and then sign him on a permanent. And that's the way they're going about it. But Newcastle have come back in, and Newcastle have said, look, okay, we'll give you 25. 25 is exactly what his brother Sean Longstaff's on. And you think, okay, that's more than reasonable. I think they put bonuses in there in which if he plays or and he scores, he gets additionals. For me, as a young player, if you love as much as he talks about loving playing for Newcastle and playing for his boyhood club, right? And you talk about how much you want to stay at the club, you sign the deal. Because I'm telling you, if he plays for his boyhood club, he's more likely to get more games, and he's more likely to have a better rise playing in the Premier League than he would going to Udinese or going to Watford. Because at Watford, he's not a boyhood hero. The fans don't care about him being a local boy because he's not. So if he plays bad, he's out of the team, and actually, he'll have a detrimental effect to him if he goes to a team like that. Whereas at Newcastle, we would allow the odd bad performance or the odd bad mistake because he's a local boy. We'd give him an extra. We'd give him an extra chance. We're very easy on the local boys, and there you go. And he has the opportunity to develop. All for £5 less. All for £5 less. For me, it's a no-brainer. Personally, I think he's waiting to see what the takeover's saying before he then commits his future to Newcastle. I think if the takeover doesn't happen, I personally think, and I'm convinced it will happen, I think he'll stay, and I think he'll sign the deal.
The appeal of playing with your brother as well, surely.
Offer him 15 for being rude.
But you think even just with...
I play FIFA in it. If I try to sign Matty Longstaff and up for 30k, you know when you just end negotiation, just keep it moving, like 30k for nothing.
Shame, man.
Don't compare real football to FIFA. FIFA's the most overrated, unrealistic game in the world. If you want to play Football
Manager,
play Football Manager.
There you go.
There you go. I've been playing that since 2000, 2001. It's the best and most realistic game. But sorry, Clinton, go on. You need to do.
Right. Before we start getting into all next,
take this somewhere else.
Let's wrap it up. Congratulations, Spurs! You broke the hoodoo. You've done your thing. You got your thing. Well done. I'm going to end it there because I'm tired of hearing you lot moan about Daniel Levy when we got Mike Ashley. Cheers, guys, for joining us.
I appreciate you, man.
Enjoy the rest of your season. We'll try and enjoy ours. Thank you guys for listening. And take care.
Take care, boys.
Take care, boys. Good luck for the season.